for us. I'm very excited to have Rosi Beachy here. Rosi is the Assistant Director for the Central Virginia Small Business Development Center. She works with us on our Facts and Snacks series as well as the Culpeper County Conference. And she offers free one-on-one business advising here in our office, as well as she has some virtual hours as well. So she is a wealth of knowledge. She can help you with things. Please take advantage of the free resources. They are here to help make sure that you guys succeed. Does anybody have any questions before I let Rosi take over and get started? Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I will let you go. And I'll pop back in, check on you.
Thanks everyone for being here. And today I am going to ask you to introduce yourselves, tell you a little bit about the services that are available from the Small Business Development Center. And then we'll get into the grant presentation as it is. So how do you set yourself up for success in applying for grants? Where do you find grants? And then at the end, we'll talk about where you go from here. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me for this discussion. Probably what's most important is that I spent 5 years as a director of development for a very small nonprofit outside of Charlottesville. I was in charge of finding grants that we could apply for. I wrote the grant applications, won some of those grants, and then had to report out to the foundation that supported us what the results were of the money that they gave us. I also am a grant application reviewer for one of the grants that are led by the Charlottesville Area Community Foundation. I was told by a grant, expert many years ago, if you want to know how to write a successful grant, become a grant reviewer. So that's just one tip I will share with you. I've been with the SBDC almost 3 years. It's been the best job I've ever had. I get to meet really wonderful people every day and learn about different businesses. So it's fantastic, especially here in Culpeper. Talk about really applies to both nonprofits and businesses. One of the points I make is there's far fewer grants for business, just so you're aware of that. So the search and the work that you need to do to get that grant is a little bit more difficult. Not that I'm saying nonprofit work is not difficult these days. So what is a grant? It is a method for an organization to award a nonprofit or business with funds that generally do not need to be paid back. That doesn't mean that they're easy. More grants are awarded to nonprofits versus businesses. That is a fact. Grants often fund a specific, either business function like research or a new technology, or they're targeting a specific business proposition, where they want growth in the industry. They can be matching or non-matching. Matching means, for example, Virginia Tourism Corporation gives out grants for marketing. They generally are $5,000. They are matching grants. That means that you need to spend $5,000 in order for them to spend $5,000 on your behalf. Okay, so that is a matching grant. Grants are often reimbursable. So you have to spend the money. First of all, you get the award. Let's say it's $10,000. As you are spending that $10,000, you are applying for reimbursement. So it's not an upfront, here's your money, have fun. You have to prove that you have spent the money on what you said you were going to spend it on. And if the organization gives you money for, let's say it's specifically for research, you have to prove that you spent that money on the research, not on general operations or something other than what they gave it to you for. Some grants can require a letter of interest or a letter of inquiry. That means you're introducing yourself to the executive director of the organization or the administrator of the fund. And grants require often extensive reporting afterwards. Success rate, just because you apply for a grant doesn't mean you're going to get it. So somewhere between 5 and 50% is what AI told me the average is for. The average used to be about 20%, 10 to 20% was the success rate. If you have a really experienced grant writer that you're working with, you can up your success rate. The more you write grants, the better your success rate because you know the language to use. So the bottom line is that grants involve a lot of time. There's a huge investment on in someone's day to research what grants can you apply for, writing the grant, reporting on the grant if you do actually get it. So for many of my clients that come into my office and say, where can I get a grant? I say, let's talk about your customer discovery first. Who is your target market? Because identifying who your base customer is and finding out, what are the best marketing methods? How do you get more people exposed to your business is a better spend of time than going online, trying to find grants and, and that's your, where you're spending the bulk of your time. So the base of your business is really going to come from your customers. And that's where you need to spend a lot of your time. But, you still want to try to get a grant. So let's plan for success in doing that. So we're going to go through each of these 6 points in the following slides. So grant success planning, big part of it is research. And the way that I found grants to apply for was a Google search online. I would put in very specific information. For example, grants for a stained glass small manufacturer in the United States. You could put, stained glass manufacturer in Virginia. You can be that specific to see what comes up. If you're in Culpeper, in the town of Culpeper, every 2 years there is I will call it a grant program where a certain amount of money for the last 2 rounds, $30,000 has been given to a group of businesses that are either locating in the town or expanding in the town. The requirement, so it's every 2 years. It's very likely going to happen in 2027 as well. This does involve, you've either got to participate in the SBDC's business classes or community investment collaboratives business classes that they hold here in Culpeper. So there is a time requirement. You work with an advisor to create a pitch, and the rewards are actually made based on your business plan and on how well you do in the pitch competition. So that's the upfront work of getting that grant. It's a reimbursable grant. There are requirements on the grant for adding employees, for investment in the community. But it is something that I would encourage you to think about if you've got a business opportunity that you want to locate in the town of Culpeper. So this is the basic way that I researched for grants. There are additional ways that you can search for grants. And you are going to get a copy. You can go online and get a copy of these slides from, I think Winona emails them out, but they'll be on the Be a Culpeper Local Facts and Snacks website as well. So, or you can take a picture of these. But these are some of the sites that I follow. The top 2 I follow regularly. Hello Alice will announce different grants that are available to small businesses. They also offer a lot of other information that's very applicable to small businesses. So I would encourage you to subscribe to their newsletter.
If you were, as you're going over these, if they're also helpful to nonprofits, can you mention that we do use Grant Helper? It's less than $10 a month, and They send out a lot of good grants.
And I used Grant Gopher as a nonprofit as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, but all of these are available to either businesses or nonprofits. Ladies Who Launch also gives you a list of different grants that are coming out. The thing is that you need to keep your kind of finger on the pulse of what's going on, because grants are not a once and done. They don't come out January 1st and you apply May 31st. They are occurring throughout the year. And you'll see on some of the grant opportunities that I list, I will state typically comes out, for example, in May 2025, or it came out May 2025. To me, as a grant, if I was interested in applying for that grant, I would start looking in March to see if they've started early with this year's round, or you want to make sure that you're ahead of the game, because you can't apply after the due date. You cannot apply to grants after the deadline. But I put them on my schedule for next year. Okay. These are free sites. The US Chamber of Commerce every month updates grants that are available to small businesses. It's a very good site to go online, just kind of skim through to see if there are any that apply to you and your industry, or your location. And so that's another one to have on your radar. You can pay for Google, or excuse me, grant search sites. Candid is the biggest one. Grant Gopher is one that I've used. Instrumental is extremely expensive. However, it's an excellent site and you can do a free trial. And what you can do is find the grants, take screenshots. I don't look at it as cheating, because as small businesses, small nonprofits, we don't have a lot of money. But as you get bigger, you'd probably want to have a subscription. And it's over $100 a month to subscribe, I believe. So, but it's extremely, extremely good. There are many sites. I'd look at what's available online, see what's affordable. There are comparisons out there now about, if you are X size business and you're looking for Y, this is the best search tool for you. So I would just go online, put in what you are all about, and see which one appears to be the best for you. But there are free, I'm giving you some good sites to follow. Another one, I think I mentioned it later, is Verizon's Digital Ready Small Business portal. They have a lot of training, and they also, I do talk about their grant program later on in the presentation. Any questions so far?
Question I have, I'd like to talk to you more later about this. What about grants for non-business involved in research that's not under the umbrella of a business?
Mhm. Yeah, you would, there are government programs for research, if you're a academic. There's all different kinds of grants for different, whatever industry you're in, government, business, etc. So nonprofits as well. These are additional free search tools. So Fin Impact, NerdWallet is great. You can put in a specific search. I listed small business grant for people like me. No, anybody can go on AARP to find small business grants. And then there's another portal for grants for women. Grants, use your connections. You can find local resources. The Chamber Economic Development may know of grants that are available that are not really public. Your friends and family may have heard of something through trade organizations and associations or fellow business owners. This is a great way to find. Last year, I found that AWS was building a big data center in Louisa County. And through Facebook, I found through the Chamber's Facebook, found that they were giving out $100,000 to community organizations in Louisa County as part of this, goodwill effort. So just keep your eyes and ears open, and if it sounds like it applies to you, do more research. You've got a lead there, so, but keep your ears open for any opportunities, especially local. So you have identified a potential funder. Should you apply? You want to make sure that what they fund matches your business. Are you within the window of time that they are allowing applications? And do you need to partner with another organization in order to apply? Sometimes organizations want to see collaboration, and we'll talk more about that. I actually have a grant listed that you would need to partner with someone to do.
Such as you.
No,
Okay.
not SBDC, no, but with the town could be a partner.
Okay.
The way you identify, there's a couple of ways that you can identify if this organization is going to fund someone like you. If they list the executive director or administrator of the foundation and their phone number, you can call them unless it says specifically they don't want to receive any calls. There's a organization called ProPublica that you can Google, let's say there's a foundation, I don't know, let's say it's Warren Buffett's foundation. And you want to find out, what they've funded before. You can go into ProPublica and it will list who they've given money to in the past. So.
And what for?
Sometimes, yes. They will also give you the mission of the organization. So, we fund public spaces that are, public gardening spaces or children's playgrounds, or, they'll have specifically what their focus is. So you want to pay attention to that. If it's not within their focus, I would not encourage you to apply, because it's just going to be a waste of time. So you really want to tailor who you're going to apply to based on who's excited about funding you.
Fairfax County Park Authority got a yellow flower for one of their parks because they only funded yellow something. I was surprised. They were like, okay.
Yeah, they can be very specific. Yes. When you're applying, remember, these are human beings that are going to read your application, and they don't want to go through, a very dry narrative of who you are and why you're doing your passion, whether it's nonprofit or for profit. So tell your story, start writing your story. When I worked for the nonprofit, I created the story when I started with them in 2017. By the time I left in 2022, that story looked very different. And you do tailor the story based on what the criteria is for the grant application. So, what information appears to be asked for consistently? The template is what you can pull bits and pieces of for specific narratives that you're going to submit to different grants. But you want to have a basic story of your business. Why are you doing this? What's your future vision? Why is everybody else excited about your business? This isn't, you're asking these people to make an investment in you. And the last thing the grant reviewer wants to hear is, my business is dead without your funding.
Oh.
You want to portray a realistic picture, because part of what you're going to submit is your financials, but you want to make them excited about investing in your future. And this may not be a once and done deal. They may want to fund you in successive years after they know who you are, they know what your mission is, okay? Um, you, the narrative, your story is really your business plan. And so you want to make sure that your business plan is current. We encourage people to have a living document be your business plan, so you're using it. It's really informing how you're working in your business. So SBDC, we review business plans all the time. We have really short business plans that are fun to fill out. They're not these long, 25-page business plans. I use a business plan that I found through SBDC. So I encourage you, if you're not with an advisor now, that you should connect with an SBDC advisor. You can start an AI to create your business plan, to create your narrative, but you want to tailor it to each individual grant application that you're making. So I pulled this from AI because I had my old narrative I was going to show you as an example, but I thought, let's make it more tailored to businesses because my narrative was for a nonprofit. Not that they're, so different. So you want to introduce who you are, statement of need or problem. Is it research that you need help with, or, you're growing your market. So it could be a new festival that you're trying to promote. So what's the proposed solution or the project description? So it's really, again, it's your business plan, but it may be a project plan versus your business plan. So a project within your business. Sorry for got way down there, but here's an example. So, your project is restore urban parks with community gardens. I think that sounded familiar here. Cool. So what's the problem? Why do you want to put these green spaces in? Well, there's a lack of green space, We don't want to totally put asphalt everywhere in town. We want to have some green space. We also want fresh food access for underserved neighborhoods. There is some funding for food deserts. I mean, it's hard to find a food desert these days, but there is funding for food deserts. So you're proposing to create community gardens in local parks. So, and then you have a goal. What's the objective? I want to do 5. And maybe at the end of the grant, you only did 3, but these are used by the community. It doesn't mean that you failed in your mission, but show the success of what you did do. And while you're, I'll get to that a little bit later, but I was going to say, while you are documenting your success, you want to document it with pictures because you're going to report out the success. I would report out, even if they didn't ask me for a report out, I would send them pictures of what we had done in the past year with their money. Because you're establishing a relationship with the funder as well. It's a relationship. So
Read number 6.
define the outcomes, what do you expect what's the success that you're going to achieve with the money that they give you? And then add a budget. So request funds for soil, seeds, gardening tools, and workshop materials. I would itemize all of those. And, if they come back to you and say, why are shovels $80 a piece? You can say, well, these are the ones that are going to last us 10 years, not the disposable ones. So they can tell that you've really thought through how you're going to spend their money. Keep a schedule. We're going to talk about some opportunities. You're going to find opportunities, but you want to keep track of those opportunities. So this is very similar to what I used. And the next page actually shows what I used. But you want to keep a record of when these grant deadlines are. You start way ahead of time and you have other people read your grant application to make sure that it makes sense to people outside your industry. Because if you're using buzzwords and acronyms that no one else knows what they are, you want to make sure that that's all spelled out so there's no question about what you're applying for. You can use a system through Trello, Asana. Salesforce is very expensive. However, for nonprofits, you can get 10 licenses for free. But then you have to create the reports and the reporting system within, which is still expensive. So, any other CRM system, any method, I used Excel. I used Excel for 5 years, so. This is how I did it. I had the deadline. So you can look here for your horse. I think they've changed the Virginia Horse Industry Board portal. But anyway, what's the website? What you don't see here is like who the executive director is, what's their phone number? Do they require an LOI, a letter of intent, or a request to apply? So the horse industry board is going to require these letters of intent. So, and then they're gonna invite you, hopefully. To apply for the grant, yeah. So, I also tracked, did we ever get any money from this organization? Because I definitely want to be within the window of application for those that have funded us previously. You want to apply well before the deadline. You do not want to be sending at 11:59 on the deadline day, because if your computer crashes or you realize you have a typo in your application, you want to retract it and fix it and then resend it within the window. Some of the people that give you money may want to use you in like an advertising campaign, so you have to be ready for that as well. I never was part of that, but some of the applications do require that.
Are they talking, if that was required, is that they want to see your books or they want to actually come out to your location, take pictures or stuff like that?
Take pictures.
Okay.
Yeah. All of your financials would be confidential.
Okay.
They don't release any of that kind of stuff. Do you need a grant writer? If you are going after a very large grant, you may consider using a grant writer. Keep in mind that the going rate is about $150 an hour for them to write the grant for you.
But you were free.
I'm not gonna write the grant for you.
Okay.
I can point, this is what this is for. So you can write the grant.
Is it fair to, or, because I've heard a couple people, they just take 10% of the grants. Does that seem right? Is that kind of a weird way of getting paid?
I've known people that will not do that, but I have heard of that being done.
10%
Yeah.
of whatever the grant you get. But how do you report that to the grantors?
You don't, because that's your own money that you're.
It's, well, it's part of your expense. It's part of your expenses, so. I would, and with anything, I would get quotes from a variety of resources. There's a grant writing firm in Charlottesville that I know of. I don't know if there are grant writers up here, but if you're looking at maybe a $200,000 state grant, you may consider hiring a grant writer. But keep in mind, if you have to pay that up front and you don't win the grant, so. All right, so here are some more grants. I want to give credit to Daniel McCoy. I went to the America SBDC conference 2 years ago, and Daniel did this presentation. He's a grant writer, he's a grant expert. He will write your grant, but you have to pay.
$150 an hour.
And then I took his slides and updated them. So this is updated as of
What
last.
is the success rate? 50%, 20%?
I don't remember. Nobody's 100%.
Well, I know that.
I don't know. Okay, so these are business grants. The FedEx Small Business Grant Contest is an annual competition that awards about $29,000 to 10 businesses. So $29,000 each. If you're gonna keep a schedule, I would keep some of these on the schedule just to check, if you're online on a Saturday morning, you got up too early and the kids are still in bed and you don't have anything to do, just Google and find FedEx Small Business Grant and see if it's open. And that's when you start working on it. The National Association for the Self-Employed, there's their website. If you're a member, you can apply. So this is, they award $4,000 every month. I have not applied for it. So I'm not sure how easy it is to apply, but you do it on a quarterly basis. The Amazon Small Business Grant, you need to sign up for a business account on Amazon in order to apply. They're not open right now. They will, I said here, they closed May 23rd of 2025. So around May, they're probably gonna, or April, they're gonna release and open up the 2026. So if you're interested, you can go on there, find out what the full requirements are. Some of these are a combination of money and then services. So it may not be a full monetary grant for some of these organizations.
I think Mel Merlino, she had, and I won 2,500.
Wow,
It was funded by American Express, I'm pretty sure,
that's wonderful.
but that was back in 2011 or 12. Melner was doing these things for women. It was in Philadelphia.
Yeah, we'll talk about American Express in a minute. This is the Verizon Digital Ready site. I use this for my business. They currently have a grant open on this site. It's $10,000. I think the deadline is the end of October, so go online, take a look at it. It's $10,000. Ink File, it's a $2,500 grant for new entrepreneurs to cover startup costs. They also offer a young entrepreneur grant for students interested in starting their own businesses. And then Comcast, again, tends to open in May. They do 1,100 business grants, $10,000 each for growth and sustainability. So that is like a general operations type grant. So hopefully they'll be coming around in 2026 as well. Grants for veterans. The information that I've seen, most of the grants for veterans include some form of mentorship. So there is, these are the 3 top ones, that you can check out if do we have any veterans in the room? Okay. So you might be interested in looking at these 3 different sites to see if there's something that would mesh with what you're doing. Okay. So American Express, they do a Main Street America grant, which is closed for 2025, hopefully again in 2026. The last time I looked at the information on this, it was a $25,000 grant. So it's a very good amount. The T-Mobile Hometown Grant Program is open right now. When I talked about partnering with people, so a town can apply for this grant. You can be supportive of the town in getting them to apply for this grant. I would start early. I would talk to, I've talked to some of the economic development directors in other counties. And they just don't have the wherewithal to apply for this. But Culpeper may. So if you're in the town of Culpeper and you're interested in it, I would start talking early for 2026. I would not expect them to apply for this unless it's already in the works.
Here's an interesting question that's come to mind. You got all these different avenues to look at grants. Let's say you got one grant that it's gone through, you're gonna get that grant. Are we still able to pursue other grants at the same time?
Yeah.
So we can get a conglomerate of grants come together to help us as one entity?
Mhm.
In other words, we don't have to be committed to just to that one grant.
No,
We don't have our hands tied.
as long as you have the bandwidth to do the reporting and all that's required of, receiving that grant.
And if I've received the grant, do I have to report that to other potential grantors in the application process?
Typically in your income statement, it can be broken out where you've got, if you're like, if you're a nonprofit, you would have donations and then you would have grants as an income line. So you report your grant income.
To the potential grantor.
It'll be on your financial statement.
Okay.
Yep. Hello, Alice. I had mentioned before, here's a sampling of what you might see on Hello Alice as far as what grants are available. So it can be Hello Alice in partnership with other businesses or organizations giving money away, but often they'll report for example, PepsiCo has a grant for women-owned small businesses in the food and beverage industry. If you have a horse organization, you're not going to apply for that grant. So that's what I mean by finding the, what are they actually interested? Has a grant for a commercial vehicle. And I've seen this is the second year that I've seen this, so I'm pretty sure they'll offer it next year. So I would keep this one on your radar because it's a fairly large grant for 20 businesses.
Would that apply to horse trailer, that kind of?
I take a look at the
Interested to
full.
look, yeah.
Yep. Well, at least your dually or your,
Yeah. or-
4x4 truck to pull
That's,
it. Grants for makers, we have a lot of creative people, and Etsy through Hello Alice had offered a grant in 2025 for makers. I'm hoping that they will offer it again in 2026. It was a $5,000 grant. And again, you've got to participate in their boot camp coaching program. Fair, if you're not familiar with Fair, similar to Etsy, but it is a wholesale retail site. So if you've got a business license, you can see wholesale pricing on this site. And you can buy all kinds of stuff for your business. They also have a quarterly program. It is open to independent retail stores. So if you don't have a storefront, if you're only selling e-commerce, you wouldn't be able to apply. But for retailers, you receive $5,000 in the form of Fair credits, which means you can buy products worth $5,000. But at the wholesale level, it's a good deal. Agriculture and food grants. The biggest funders are the federal and state governments for agriculture. Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, known as VDACs. There are food grants. We talked about Hoop House. That is, I think it's through VDACs. VDACs has a specific grant that is an APHID grant, and VA Fairs, which is another organization within Virginia, who also offers it's called the bullpen competition. So it's pitch competition, it's grant money. They will help you write the grant for the APHID application. However, they've got a year-long waiting list for helping you write that grant, but it's only specifically for that grant.
Isn't APHIS for insect control?
APHID?
APHIS?
No, this is AFID.
Oh,
You would think APHID.
Control thing, 'cause that's what my area is.
Farmers.gov is the USDA government site, and they have, beginning farmers and ranchers program through the, I can talk all day about agriculture because it's so important to our Virginia economy. So there are not as many grants available, but there are many programs available to help farmers and ranchers, especially beginning farmers and ranchers. There are also private funding sources. The VDAC site is up there. SARE, SARE, has funding or grants. Brighter Future Fund, Dirt Capital Partners will actually help invest in farmland for farmers to farm. So they become a partner, an investment partner, rather than giving you money to create a farm.
But then you buy them out or you don't.
You eventually buy them out. Yeah, yeah. It's in the plan. They're not gonna stay long term. So here's some other ones: Food Shed Capital, Sky High Farm Grants. So if you're in the agricultural section as a business, there are some.
You're gonna give us these slides, right?
Mhm. Winona will send them.
And also, you said it's only short term, there's no perpetuity involved.
For that specific, let's see.
The dirt capital farmers.
Right, dirt capital, that's the way that they invest the money, so it's not particularly a grant. But they are an investor in your farm, and then you eventually work your way out of the loan.
But did they ever have any perpetuity in the contract where they get a certain amount of money for the entire life of the business?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm. Not that I've heard. Last but not least, if your business touches tourism at all, I would encourage you to bookmark vatc.org. There are tons of resources on the Virginia tourism site, including things like stock photos that you can use of our beautiful Commonwealth. Grants is another portion of Virginia Tourism Corporation. It's changed a lot in the last years. For example, the love signs used to be co-opted by them, and they're no longer co-opted by VTC. It says Virginia Tourism Corp, but it's actually a state entity. These are the two that businesses can apply for. They've got a whole list of grants where for example, the tourism department for Culpeper County can apply for it. You could partner with them. So let's say you wanted to make a new wine trail or craft business location trail or something like that that involves many businesses, brings outside tourists to the county or to the state, especially if it includes an overnight stay, or it is something that's in what they call the shoulder season. So it's not prime summer season. It's the early spring, late fall that gets more people into the state. Those are the types of things that they're really interested in funding. So we talked about reimbursable grants, the marketing leverage program, travel industry partners, including small businesses. So a small business can apply for this grant. It opens mid-February of 2026. And there are tier levels, depending on how many visitors you could bring or how big your event is. So if you're interested in these grants, I strongly encourage you to contact the grant administrators for Virginia Tourism Corporation. They're listed on the website. If you go to this link that, /grants, it'll have the administrators there. I think there's 3 people in the department. Talk to them about, what your vision is, what you're trying to do, and they'll tell you, here's the grant I think you can apply for. Here's the kind of information that you need to present. you really should talk with Kelly Lever, who is our destination marketing coordinator for VTC for our area, for Culpeper.
But this bottom one, it says match 1-to-1 cash or in kind. What do they mean by in kind?
So let's say you are creating a maze, and this is part of the grant application. You're driving the tractor, you know, at $25 an hour or whatever to create the maze. That's in kind.
Okay,
Your time is in kind.
and that includes equipment, that just time or equipment and time?
Your time
Just time?
Yeah.
Okay,
generally is what's allowed. So, yeah, so if they give you $5,000 and you're out there, you know, 5,000 hours or whatever. That's a match. Here are some of the other things that they do. So if you've got an event or you want to highlight something, they're the ones that publish a monthly magazine to consumers, and then they also do a monthly magazine to businesses. And they strongly encourage you to become part of the Virginia is for Lovers program. So you can apply, you know, this Salty Southern Route, which is a group of businesses, has the Virginia's for peanut lovers and for pork lovers. Virginia's for horse lovers is already out there. So Virginia's for farmers market. I think Rappahannock has the farm tour. You know, we could probably use it here in Culpeper too. But, you know, there's all kinds of opportunities to expose yourself to the people that are coming into Virginia to tour. If you have a tourism related business, and scare you too much on what's required to write a grant and report on it. But, you know, honestly, do you have the bandwidth to do it? It sounds like a good idea, but it's a lot of work,
There are two kinds of bandwidth. What kind of bandwidth are you talking about?
personal bandwidth.
Okay,
Time consuming.
not digital bandwidth.
No,
The time consuming one.
yes. If you know, if this has triggered some thoughts about funding, you know, is grant writing part of what I want to do for my business, then I invite you to meet with an SBDC advisor. We can go through, you know, do a business health check with you to talk about your business overall. And then, you know, if you're looking at grants specifically, we can talk about that as well.
What about, does any of this possibility have a pathway to philanthropists? Or is that just a whole nother avenue that's so far outside scope of all of this?
It is similar. So the philanthropists you can connect with on a personal level. There is also,
How do you find them?
that's a good question.
It's called high net worth
Yeah.
individuals.
It's
Getting into that
networking.
networking.
So there are also, there's a whole nother, so there are foundations was what traditionally we applied to for grants. There's a whole nother structure of where people can put their money to donate. It's called donor advised funds. And they are sometimes administered by, for example, the Charlottesville Area Community Foundation administers a whole group of donor advised funds. Donor advised funds are anonymous. They do not disclose who is there, who is part of the fund, and they are not required, like foundations are, to disperse a certain amount of money every year. So it's at their discretion. They could give away all their money one year and be done, or they could wait 25 years and give all their money at the end of those 25 years. So there's no requirement for how they spend that money that's been earmarked for donations. So it's all, you know, to access that market, it's really about connections, you know, networking within your community. And you don't know who's got the money because they may not, you know, may not be wearing Gucci heels and
The millionaire next door.
Yeah.
Now. It's
they may be
millionaire.
driving a, you know, 30-year-old car. So You just don't know. Be nice to everybody.
I had a question, if you, like, let's say we apply for a grant and we don't get it,
Uh-huh.
is that a bad, like, to go back the next year and try again, is that a bad look? Do they look back and be like, well, you didn't win last year, so, or is it,
You can justify the changes in your business, you know, how you've grown, you've got a new vision, you've got a more stable base. With the fund that I do the grant interviews with, so I go out and interview the applicants. And then the fund actually makes a decision on who they're gonna fund, but we go do the interviews. That the people that don't get that grant have the opportunity to go back to the Charlottesville Area Community Foundation and say, what was the reason why I didn't get the full amount or I didn't get any amount? And we write notes in that grant, when we go out and meet with them on the site visits and say, you know, why we made the recommendations that we did.
Is that common for all grantors that they will give you that information or no?
No. Not all, but you know, I would ask if you have the administrator or the executive director's contact information, you could ask them, you know, I want to do better. Can you share with me? You know, I've never put it in a negative light.
and if you win, then are places, like, is each one considered independently, or like, if you win, then you apply for the same grant, are people that are giving the grant more likely to be like, well, you already won something, so we're gonna put you to side, and
Not necessarily, no.
so it's pretty much each time you apply is like a independent
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
It's like,
Could win year after year.
Yeah, that's what I think, it's just to show growth. I think there's probably
Yeah.
plus and minus on both sides.
And her point about, you know, grants are becoming less available.
Mhm.
So for this round, and it's public knowledge, this round of this grant review committee that I did, we had 187 applicants for $775,000, and the total requests was at $1.5 million. So nobody got 100% funding, and we had to cut, you know, recommendations so that really worthwhile
Mhm.
nonprofits got something,
Mhm.
you know, to continue their mission. But it's just really
So if it says $5,000, that doesn't mean you will get the 5,000, you might get $2,500 or
possible.
$500.
Right. It depends, like when for VTC, it says up to 5,000. If you only need 1,000, just apply for 1,000,
Okay.
you know? Don't apply for a big amount, assuming you're gonna get less.
It actually improves your chances too,
Could,
asking for less.
it could.
And can you put yourself as a range, like between 1,000 and 2,000?
I would be very specific and say, this is what I need the money for. This is what it's gonna be spent on.
I feel like
I actually need to go and
better.
say, I need signs, I need signs from my area. And I say, I need, and actually go down to the penny or say,
If you get a quote on those signs,
and send that quote in.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I feel like the more information, the better, the happier they'll be.
Some of the applications are they're like on a Google form, and you're restricted to the number of characters you can use. So that's where AI can be useful. You can download the text into AI and say this in 250 characters. And it will, you know, you can edit it, but then some places they'll say attach pictures, other places will say this is your application, no attachments, no, nothing else.
That's it.